Yeah, we back. Yeah, we back. Now, today we got an interesting video. I'm going to be reacting to an interview with the Niger defense minister, right? General Mody. And in this video, in this interview, which is like over an hour long, he revealed a lot of interesting information, gave us a lot of inner workings behind the scenes, a lot of revelations. And the interview, I believe, was over an hour long, but I'm not going to react to the entire interview, but only the most important parts. Now, for those of y'all who may not know about General Mody, that's definitely a high-ranking figure in the AES. Like I told you, the Minister of Defense, one of General Chiani's close associates. And take a look up on the screen right here. As you can see, Ibrahim Traore dapping him up, right? Then right here, as you can see, you know, he posted up with Assimi Goita down in Mali. So as you can see, this is a high-ranking member of the AES. Somebody we don't really hear from too often, but he has some interesting revelations to reveal to the people. So I'm gonna come in and out of my commentary. I'm gonna play the most important parts from the interview, in my opinion. I'm not gonna react to the entire, hour-long interview, but just the most important parts. But anyways, let's get into it. Run the footage. I'm gonna come in and out. Let's go.
As you know, before the events of July 26, 2023, and our country was insecure. Our country was insecure simply because we did not have control over the security situation. We were under supervision. And secondly, at the national level, our security structures were disorganized. Of course, that was convenient. From those under which we were, particularly the foreign forces, and specifically the French forces.
Now, in this part of the interview, in the beginning, General Mody begins talking about the days before the military took power, right? Before they overthrew the government, what the situation was in the region, in the country, before the new shift in government, right? When the French were still around, when the French were still active on the territory. And if you remember, a couple weeks back, Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, has said that Africans should be grateful for French military assistance. Remember, Emmanuel Macron said African nations should have said thank you to the almighty French military, right? Now, keep in mind, the French military was stationed in the region for 10 years and couldn't register a single meaningful victory against the terrorists, right? The almighty powerful French military, so-called French military, couldn't even register a single military victory against the booty-scratching desert dwellers in the Sahel, the terrorists in the Sahel. And General Mody pretty much debunks Emmanuel Macron's claims because he said when the French were here, everything was completely disorganized. Nothing was functioning properly. Now, let's continue.
It was practically a security charlatanism that prevailed. Of course, for the average person in Niger, everything was fine, quite simply because there was a narrative, internally and internationally, to make people believe that the situation was one of the best in the sub-region.
My man General Mody said when the French was here, it was nothing but security charlatanism. Called the French a bunch of charlatans. Said them boys a bunch of security charlatans. Man, that's a fact. That's a fact, boy. Now, also in that part of the interview, General Mody said that he talks about propaganda warfare, right? He says that even though the French were completely incompetent, he says that there was a narrative in the media internationally to make it seem like the situation in Niger was amazing, right? The situation in Niger was awesome, right? Now, he didn't mention it in the interview, but I also believe the reason why they said that is because the president that was in power at the time, President Bazoum, was a trusted Western ally, right? The administration of the previous president that was overthrown, he was very friendly and cooperative with the Western powers. So when you have a president that's very friendly and cooperative with the Western powers, the international media is going to make it seem like everything he does is amazing, right? They're going to make it seem like the situation in the country is amazing, right? The only time they don't do that is when a president is in power who is not playing ball, who is not in line with their interests. That is when they turn on the slander campaign and the propaganda campaign. But when you have a president like Mohamed Bazoum, the previous president, who is an ally of the Western powers, who's a darling of the Western powers, they're going to make it seem like, oh man, this is a country that is a model of democracy, a model of stability, right? Oh man, President Bazoum is the man, right? That's what was going on. That's what was going on, right? So he talks about the narrative that was crafted under the administration of the last president, right? And you can see the contrast with it now, because compare that to how they talk about Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger in the modern day. everything is negative, the sky is falling, oh my, everything is doom and gloom, right? But they never report on the positives. They don't report on the military victories. They don't talk about Ibrahim Traoré receiving 60 million euros for the release of the French spies. They don't talk about anything that goes in their favor. They only talk about negative things and negative propaganda. But when it was President Mohamed Bazoum, oh man, model of democracy, you know, a champion of democracy, you know what I mean? Nothing but positive propaganda. And also another reason for the positive propaganda is it's kind of like you scratch my back, I scratch your back. So Mohamed Bazoum, like I said, when he was in power, he was signing crazy deals with the French, right? Gave the French access to the uranium for like the next 50 years, right? Was signing a bunch of ridiculous contracts. So in return, yes, in their media, in the Western media, they're going to compliment you. They're going to, you know, raise your profile. They're going to, you know, glorify you in the media. That's basically them returning the favor for you selling your country away. Now let's continue.
In 2024, a system had to be implemented to deal with the immediate situation. Because starting from 2024, we entered the phase of threats from all directions. There were, of course, those criminal groups operating all over our borders, in the north, south, east, west. You remember, through the Armed Forces Bulletin, the various operations. So there is this insecurity, let's say, affecting the borders, but there are others who are the best at destabilizing our country, the embargoes, because we have to admit that until today, these embargoes persist. There are also these informational threats. The war of communication. This war of communication, where all means are used not only to discourage our populations, our defense and security forces, but also to convey to the outside world that nothing is going well in Niger.
Now, in this section of the interview, General Mody starts talking about how things were going after the military took power, because now he mentions 2024. Now, keep in mind, the military came to power back in July 2023. So now he's talking about 2024. He talks about the terrorist groups that are operating in the borders of the South, the East, the North, and the West. Now, at this point, we already know what time it is with the terrorist groups. We already basically have a confirmation on who is supporting, at least who is one of the foreign sponsors behind the terrorist groups, right? Number one, General Chiani already came out and said it, that we done already locked up some of these terrorists, and they already exposed us to the fact that France is one of their sponsors and suppliers. And then the other day, we spoke about Ibrahim Traoré receiving 60 million euros for the liberation of the French secret agents that he had in captivity for over a year. And then he said that when they went through their cell phones, they found contacts in regions under tight security. Now, when I hear regions under tight security, the only thing that comes to my mind is the regions occupied by the terrorist groups. So now we have confirmation from the terrorists themselves about who one of their foreign sponsors are. And then when the French undercover secret agents, who are members of the DGSE, which is basically, like I said before, the French equivalent of the CIA, they found them to be in contact with men in regions under tight security. So at this point, we already understand who at least one of the hidden hands are behind the so-called terrorism happening in the region. Also, in that part of the interview, General Mody talks about economic warfare and propaganda warfare. He talks about the embargoes that were placed on the country, right, to economically suffocate the country. And then he also talks about the propaganda warfare, the war of communication, right, which currently, as you can see, I'm currently engaged in the war of communication, riding alongside my brothers, right? Because I can see there's a war of communication, like I mentioned before. They never talk about the positive developments. They never talk about the military victories. They never talk about Ibrahim Traoré outmaneuvering the French diplomatically, right? They only talk about the doom and gloom. They only report on terrorist attacks. They only talk about death and destruction, right? Make it seem like the sky is falling. That's what you call propaganda warfare. That's what you call the war of communication. And I love how General Mody summarized it at the end when he talked about the war of communication, because he summarized it perfectly when he said the war of communication, where all means are used to discourage the population as well as the defense and security forces and convey to the outside world that nothing is going well inside the country, right? That is what you call propaganda warfare. That is what you call the war of communication. Right. So like I said, there's many different types of warfare, like we always mentioned before. Besides the physical combat warfare, there's propaganda warfare, there's economic warfare, there's diplomatic warfare, right? War on all fronts. Like you said, it's a war being fought on all fronts. Embargoes, sanctions, propaganda, terrorists being sponsored. Bro, it's all out warfare. You know, the war is raging right now. Let's continue.
In terms of material resources, we have acquired new equipment, acquisitions of aircraft, transport vehicles, logistical means, combat vehicles, armored vehicles,
Now, in this section of the interview, General Mody begins talking about the acquisition of modern military technology, right? Technology that they didn't have access to for whatever reason when they were partnered with the French, right? When the French were our so-called allies and our military partners, we didn't have access to these weapons that we have now in the modern day, right? See, back in the day, the French wouldn't even sell you a rusty pistol from 1922, right? But now as you can see, now that they diversified their partnerships, they have access to equipment that can now increase their defense capabilities. And also, like I dropped a video the other day, take a look up on the screen. In Mali, Assimi Goïta announces a project for a weapons assembly plant, right? A domestic weapons manufacturing industry. So once that project gets off the ground, the military arsenal will increase at a very fast rate at a fraction of the cost currently, right? Right now, they're currently, going around, shopping around, buying technology from overseas, right? But now once you can manufacture it domestically in-house, now you can bring it in at a fraction of the cost. Now, let's continue.
If it hadn't been for the stance of Burkina Faso and Mali, those countries would have attacked us, which means that the creation of the Alliance of Sahel States, this creation is our passport to security. We now have a defense and security space that extends from Boso to the border, from Mauritania and extending from the south of the Malian route to the borders of Libya. In this common space, our forces will now be able to intervene together, or one force can call upon the other that has slightly more strategic means for defense. It's new, it's original, and it's reassuring for our area and our populations.
Now, in this section of the interview, General Mody talks about how when the military came to power, he said that if it wasn't for the supportive position of Burkina Faso and Mali, who had openly pledged to the international community that they would come to the defense of Niger if anybody trespassed against them, that was the only reason that they weren't attacked, right? Because if you remember back during that time, as soon as the military came to power in Niger, within like 48 hours, everybody was calling for blood. Everybody was calling for murder. Everybody was calling for military invasion, right? The response to the coup in Niger was very different from the response to the coups in Burkina Faso and Mali, right? Now, of course, Mali and Burkina, they were placed under sanction and things like that, but nobody was calling for immediate military intervention. With Niger, the response was very frantic. France and the United States put out immediate statements, right? The European Union was on high alert, but that goes to show you how much of a strategic nation, how much of a strategic country that Niger is in terms of its natural resources. Because I never seen a response so quickly. Within a week, everybody was talking about military invasion, right? And then, as you can see, General Mody said, if it wasn't for the assistance of Burkina and Mali, who had pledged to stand behind us, that was the only reason nobody attacked us. Also, in that part of the interview, General Mody speaks about the geographic size of the AES, right? He says, we have a sovereign defense and security space that stretches all the way from Boso, which I believe, take a look up on the screen, is located all the way on the easternmost border of Niger, that stretches all the way to the border of Mauritania. Right, so that whole stretch across the Sahel. And then he says we have a space that stretches all the way from the southern Malian border, by Guinea, by the Mali and Guinea border, all the way to the border of Libya. My man said, listen, we control this whole area. My man said, listen, this whole space right here, that's us right here. Right, it's us right here, all the way from Boso to Mauritania, from Guinea to Libya. Let's continue.
Despite all these threats that I mentioned earlier, threats of destabilization on the left, embargoes on the right. I remind you that when I talk about an embargo, up to today, we have around 100 vehicles. So armored vehicles that are held in Benin, at the port of Cotonou, for some unknown reason. We have aircraft. They are held in Western countries. The aircraft we paid for.
Now, in this section of the interview, General Mody reveals some bombshell information, right? He talks about the sanctions and embargoes that the country has been going through and apparently is still going through. And he had mentioned how there are currently many military vehicles, probably armored vehicles, that are blocked in Benin, that are blocked in the port in Benin. As you can see, take a look up on the screen. He said, we still have about 100 vehicles, including armored vehicles, held in Benin at the port of Cotonou for unknown reasons. We also have aircrafts, which we have paid for, held in Western countries. Now, once again, the president of Benin, Patrice Talon, just an overall disappointment, just overall disgrace of a black man not worthy of his title, not worthy of his ancestry, not worthy of his position. When you talk about Benin, you're talking about a very warlike people. You're talking about a group of people that come from a warlike culture that fought to the death when the Europeans invaded, right? So to have a president like this, genuflecting in front of the Europeans is truly a shame. It's truly a disgrace. Going all the way back a few months back when we talked about when the president of Benin had met up with the French general Francois Lecointe, who had basically openly said that European interests in Africa must be defended at all costs, even by the force of arms, right? This gentleman, Francois Lecointe, has said that, and I did a video on that as well, if you remember. And meanwhile, here you got the president of Benin, Patrice Talon, shaking his hand, right? Shaking the enemy's hand. And not only that, but also in my recent videos, I spoke about how just a couple weeks ago, right, back on the 30th of December, 2024, French military aircraft was detected flying through Benin airspace and landed in the capital at 4 p.m. So as you can see, the French military obviously has a presence in Benin, whether officially or unofficially, undercover, clandestine, I don't know. So all this news combined in combination, and keep in mind when the military government came to power in Niger, Benin was one of the first countries to close the border and impose sanctions on the country, even to its own detriment, because the cross-border trade between Niger and Benin is very profitable. It's very extensive. So the president of Benin went against his own economic interests for whatever reason, right? That's how you know he's taking marching orders from somebody else, because he decided to take actions that aren't even in line with his own economic or national interests. Now, eventually, they opened the border back up because, like I said, when they closed the border, they ended up locking out a large amount of revenue and trade when they closed the border with Niger. So unfortunately for Benin, when they wanted to open the border back up and resume trade relations, Niger decided to keep the border closed, right? They kept the border closed for security reasons because they said that they believe that there's French military activity happening on the other side of the border, and we're going to keep the border closed for security reasons, right? Now we get this bombshell information from General Mody. He basically said that we have military equipment that is currently blocked in the port of Cotonou, the port down in Benin. As you know, Niger is landlocked, so they got to go through the ports of the various coastal countries like Togo, Benin, Nigeria, whatever country on the coast that will transport the equipment and the imports down to Niger or Burkina Faso or Mali. That's how it goes when you're a landlocked country. But now, hopefully, due to the fact that General Mody is doing this interview in the public, this is going to kind of put some pressure on the authorities down in Benin to release the military equipment, right? Release the equipment, brothers. It doesn't belong to you. You didn't pay for it. Stop playing games, bro. Stop playing games, bro. Come on, man. Come on, bro. You on some bullshit right now, bro. Anyways, I want to go back to when they said that they also have aircrafts that they purchased that are also currently being blocked in Western countries, right? When they talk about the embargoes and the destabilization attempts and the sabotage, right? Now, this is not the first time that we have heard this. Ibrahim Traoré himself has also made similar statements saying that we have made purchases on military equipment that has been intercepted and blocked by Western nations. Ibrahim Traoré did a speech about that. Also, the foreign minister of Mali, Mr. Abdoulaye Diop, also made a speech about that as well, saying that when Mali went in and acquired certain military technology, they were intercepted and the delivery was blocked by Western nations. Now, this is all more the reason to celebrate the fact that Assimi Goïta had recently announced this project for domestic weapons manufacturing. Because now when you produce your weapons in-house, right, and you don't got to import from outside, now you don't got to go through all these headaches about something getting blocked at the port or something getting intercepted on the seas or something getting blocked in this country and that country and it won't be released. Now you don't got to go through this headache. That's one of the main benefits, apart from the lower cost of production. One of the main benefits is you don't got to go through all this red tape and all this headache of trying to import it into the country. Now, the reason why all these military deliveries are probably getting blocked or intercepted or they won't be released and sent out for export is probably because they probably purchased it from a company that is based in a hostile country, probably based in a Western country. They probably bought the aircraft from a Western company, and the Western government that is based in basically said, no, do not release the equipment to that nation. And of course, the company cannot go against the orders and the laws of the government of which it operates in. So they have no choice but to hold on to the equipment until they get the permission to send it out. And that's all the more the reason to produce your weapons in-house, because this is the nonsense you got to go through when you try to get weapons from outside. So yes, even if you paid for it with your own money, it could still end up being blocked because the government that company is based in, due to the fact that these nations regulate the transportation of arms and ammunition, they might just say, no, we're not going to send that over to Niger. And they can make up whatever reason they want. And also, they have the exclusive licenses and patents on certain technologies, which means that they need certain permissions to even send that out to foreign countries. So when you're in a situation like Niger, as well as Burkina Faso and Mali, and you are seen as a hostile nation that is not cooperative with our foreign policy goals and our foreign policy interests, then yes, Western nations will sabotage the delivery of military equipment. Yes, due to the fact that they control certain shipping lanes, they're going to intercept your delivery and hold on to it for whatever reason they want, right? Yes, they're going to tell the company, do not send that over. Yeah, keep the money, take their money, but do not send the equipment over. Do not export it out to that country. And that is what you call economic warfare, right? That's what you call a sanction. That's what you call a trade embargo, right? And not only that, but you're also blocking a country's ability to defend itself, right? So like General Mody said before, this is a war that is being waged on all fronts, right? Physically, economically, diplomatically, in the media, communication, all levels, bro, all levels. I'm telling you, man, see the things the black man got to go through? It's crazy out here, boy. Let's continue.
That our country is blessed, but our country is always strategic. It is rare to find a country that has all energy sources. In Niger, there is water. Water is a source of energy. There is oil. There is sun 365 days a year. There is uranium.
Now, in that section of the interview, General Mody begins listing off the reasons why Niger is such a strategic nation, especially a nation that is so coveted by the Western powers, right? And why the Western powers wants to keep them under their foot, right? Because he said in Niger, you have water, the rivers and the lakes. You have the sun shining 365 days out the year, all year long, beautiful weather. You have oil. You have uranium. That's why I said at the beginning of the clip, our country is blessed, but our country is also strategic. And that's also why I believe that the response to the military takeover was so drastic and so outlandish, right? Everybody was calling for military invasion because Niger is such a strategic asset. Even the Western powers always labeled it that, right? A strategic Western ally. And keep in mind, the uranium coming out of Niger was not only benefiting France, it was not only benefiting the French and providing electricity in France, it was providing power to the entire European continent. Not only France was depending on the uranium from Niger, but the entire European continent. So when General Mody said Niger is strategic, he was not lying. He was not lying. Basically, he was saying what I always say on my channel. The black man is blessed, right? The black man is blessed. We got rich, fertile soil that is perfect for the cultivation of agriculture. We have beautiful tropical weather. We have abundant freshwater supplies. We got rivers, lakes, and oceans. We got beautiful ecosystems and beautiful wild animals. We got uranium, gold, diamonds, cobalt, lithium, platinum, copper, iron ore, bauxite, coltan. The list goes on and on, man. The black man is blessed in abundance that you can't even imagine. And because the black man is blessed in abundance that you can't even imagine, that's the reason why for the past many centuries, the black man has been a target. That's how it goes, right? That's how it goes. Even in the streets, if you're known as the flashy guy in the streets that has a whole bunch of resources, you got the beautiful car, you got the Mercedes-Benz, the Ferrari, the Lambo, the McLaren, you got the diamonds, the rings, the chains, you got a beautiful house, a big house, you're going to be the subject of jealousy. You're going to be targeted by those who don't have what you have. You're going to be targeted by those who are jealous of what you have and want to take what you have from you. When you think about it, geopolitics is very similar to the streets, to be honest. So when you think about these individuals who come from these barren land masses who don't really have much in abundance, don't have beautiful weather, don't have lakes and rivers, don't have, a beautiful abundant supply of natural resources and cultivated land for agriculture, yes, they're going to be jealous of other men. They're going to be jealous of other men who already are blessed with these things in abundance. And they're going to do everything in their power to usurp these men and take what they have from them. And that's the predicament the black man finds himself in. And that's all the more reason to celebrate that Assimi Goïta recently launched that project for the domestic manufacture of weapons. Yeah, anyway, let's continue.
His Excellency, Mr. CNSP President, has spoken about it very often. Our main enemy has given instructions to terrorism, not only to drive the populations away, but to prevent them from engaging in agriculture, because the space is sought after. The populations had to be emptied, of course. The area had to be cleared.
Now, in this section of the interview, General Mody says, and I quote, "Our main enemy has given instructions to terrorists to drive the populations away and prevent them from engaging in agriculture because the land is sought after and the population must be cleared out." Now, when you think about terrorism or when you hear about armed groups causing chaos in a region, now, for whatever reason, maybe it's coincidental, maybe it's not. I don't think so. But these type of criminal activities where you see, terrorist groups causing mayhem and destabilizing the country, they only happen, for whatever reason, they only happen in areas that are rich in natural resources. For whatever reason, they never go attack areas that are barren. They never go attack areas that don't got nothing. They only attack areas that are rich in natural resources, that are rich in critical minerals, right? For whatever reason, this happens in all countries. This happens in all countries, man. Even when you see what's going on in the Congo, all the instability happening in the Congo, coincidentally, it's happening in all the areas that's rich in the trillion-dollar natural resources. For whatever reason, that's how it always happens. The population in these areas are always displaced and cleared out in these areas that are rich in natural resources. It always happens the same way, right? And General Mody says the same thing. He says our country is blessed, but when you are blessed, you are also a target, right? Like I mentioned before. And that's why I believe as black men, a national defense must come first before any other objective, right? You cannot establish anything else if you don't have security, right? If you don't have safety from your hostile adversaries. And as black men, I pretty much accepted our fate. I pretty much accepted the gift and the curse that comes with being blessed in abundance. And when you're blessed in abundance, you're going to be targeted by those who are jealous of what you have, who want to take what you have. So we're never going to be able to change that. We're never going to be able to change their mentality towards us. Only thing we could do is protect ourselves from them, right? Because they're never going to stop attacking us, never going to stop trying to destabilize us. So we can't sit around and complain about that and cry about that. Only thing we could do is prepare for the inevitable and protect ourselves to the best of our ability. So when the adversary inevitably comes, because he will always come, he will never stop coming, we are in a position to where we can drive him back into the ocean and send him on his way to an eternal slumber. But anyways, man, it's your boy Nevercard. That's Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
Yeah, I'm focused on fortification. I'm trying to step out of the matrix. I'm finna be all in your playlist. The haters gon' look and amaze me. I'm taking my time and I'm patient. They tell me I make it look easy. I'm going and they never gon' reach me. I cut off my phone, I'm back on my zone. Yeah, I'm back on my own. The king of my castle and forging my own path. I'm back on the dawn. I know they be watching it lately. I'm pressing the gas. These niggas be clones. They selling they soul for currency. I be like, man, just leave me alone. Lil' mama, she look like a dancer. I'm back in my zone, I got hundreds and fifties, they treat me just like I'm a master. I'm back in the city, I'm feeling imperial, plotting on power expansion. I can't show no love, I got pain in my heart, but I hide it when I'm on the camera. I'm young and I'm raising the standard, and I don't be doing no features. These niggas be talking about killing and robbing, I'm steady relaxing and leisure. The spirit of kings, we never gon' die, we taking it back with the leaders. They came and invaded, the enemy raided and put all that shit in museums. Real talk, and I still can't believe it. I pull up and shine on them, I pull up and ride on them, I pull up and flex with the team, you know we gon' style on them. I'm cold like 7 degrees whenever I rhyme on them. This shit like COINTELPRO, my nigga they spine on us. Fuck how they feeling, I'm bossed up. Enemy finna get tossed up. Come on the block and then buy it up. Back in the biz and I'm riding up. I'm ready for war and they hiding out. I told the creator I'm riding out. They up in the crib and they popping out. I'm close to the limit, I've been in route. Yeah. Weight on my shoulders, it feel like a boulder. Ghost written by the kings, I decoded like high priest. Set a fire, don't roll it. I'ma get it till they tell me it's over. I'ma get it till I'm way up and know it. Meditated so I'm closer to God. Pretty soon we gon' be on the top. Yeah, I'm focused on fortification. I'm trying to step out of the matrix. I'm finna be all in your playlist. The haters gon' look and amaze me. I'm taking my time and I'm patient. They tell me I make it look easy. I'm going and they never gon' reach me. I cut off my phone, I'm back on my zone. Yeah, I'm back on my own. The king of my castle and forging my own path. I'm back on the dawn. I know they be watching it lately. I'm pressing the gas. These niggas be clones. They selling they soul for currency. I be like, man.